impact feel where it needs to come down.
Right there.
Yeah, you memorize what 15/16 of an inch feels like.
And what model is this going to be called?
This is the KB17.
So Kris Bryant.
Which was a modified 243 that it came up with from a little more than a year ago. So much it matters just keeping the profile consistent, every single one. So when you do enough of them for players, especially over and over and over, you get kind of a standard operation procedure method of even sanding, so you don't take one down too much versus the other one. A lot of it is just rhythm and timing.
So you've already measured this one out?
Yeah, we got it roughed out close. And I like roughing them so that you can over and over, get it to a certain point, then move on to another one. And then the ultimate is just double checking all of the dimensions. We want to be 202 on the knob, 202 and 50 thousandths.
Wow.
Over, so we're right there. And then on the top hand, I want to be 925. I'm at 927.
So you have all the measurements all in your head, all memorized.
With certain models, especially when you've been working on them, yeah, you start to memorize exactly where it's supposed to be. So it's 932 right there. I want to finish right around 925, so there's a little bit more sanding.
And this is one that you made in conjunction with Kris's input?
Yeah, it was kind of by default. Again, you wanted a 243 model. The distinct characteristic of that is the big long fat barrel. Because of his status and what he was able to hit per the rules as a first-year player, he's now allowed to hit the grandfather in specifications of the 243 because of the low density of wood that would require. So what we had done was a couple years ago, starting to work with him, we modified the 243 barrel down in diameter so that the billet weight, the starting weight of the wood, is appropriate and legal for his status as a minor league player, and then now his status as a big league player as well. And in the beginning, some of the guys, really don't like the modified versions, but what they soon learn is that the rules as they pertain to low density wood versus higher density wood. The higher density wood bats last longer and are actually harder. They hit the ball better. That's why with a lot of players, we'll tweak and get really thin on the barrel to get even harder of a bat. If you look at Cespedes, for example, what I'm making him now, a few years after when I first started working with him, when he was down in the DR before he came to the U.S.
Right.
There's a world of difference. The barrels before were much bigger, and now they're much smaller. And again, just like Cespedes and Harper and Lagares and Tejada and all those guys, they've realized that smaller is actually better. And when it comes to making contact with a baseball, they also have learned to trust the fact that just because you have a bigger barrel doesn't mean you're going to square up the ball any better. Because if you think of this as a ball and you look at a round cylindrical surface hitting a round cylindrical surface, there's not much area that it contacts anyway. So even if this barrel were incrementally larger, say 10, 15, 20% larger, you're still
Right.
going to make contact with the same amount of ball. It still takes pinpoint precision, roughly an area between my thumbs. It takes that much precision to square up a ball. Whether the barrel's big or the barrel's thin, it doesn't matter. And again, players are starting to realize that, especially when I take a baseball and I put it on a bat of a big barrel. If you say this is even a barrel here, and you look at how much surface area of the bat makes contact with the ball, it's identical to this.
Great point.
Again, it's dealing with a round on the cylinder versus going up against a flat object. If this was a 2x4, then absolutely, bigger is better. But for making the type of contact that we need to make, smaller is harder, smaller lasts longer, and smaller gets the ball off the barrel faster.
So any other players now asking you for a KB model bat?
No, Kris is the only one that we've done this KB for. That Carlos Correa model. That one was, again, a very unique design. Carlos, when he originally got drafted, wanted I-13s, which, similar to the 243 that Kris had preferred or requested, I-13s were illegal for Carlos Correa to hit, as well as any other minor league player prior to 2010. And so I modified it the same way I modified this for Kris. I took the I-13 head, and Evan Longoria is infamous for hitting an I-13, and he's allowed to, because when he signed his contract. There's a big fat barrel. I streamlined it down. I stretched it long, because again, a longer surface area is more important than a fat surface area. And if you've got a fat barrel that tapers all the way down, I would rather have this type of coverage of the plate as opposed to that type of coverage of the plate, or even this.
So more sweet spot.
Yeah, it's not as much sweet spot, it's landing strip. The sweet spot on this particular model is going to be right about here on this face, right about there. It's going to come down and be about 4.25 to 4.5 inches down from the tip. It'll start about here and run to about there, and then the epicenter, the center of the
There we go.
at the pinpoint of the sweet spot will be there. It's basically dictated by the length and the overall geometry of the bat. And what the sweet spot is referring to, right there, in this Chase Utley CU7 model, it's right there. It's where all of the different nodes of vibration with the sound and vibration of energy going through the bat, out, back, and in, where everything converges, creates the center of percussion. And that's where all of the vibration then cancels out. You can hear the tone change right there, where it almost becomes dead.
Yep.
Because all the vibration then is canceled out right there. And that's whenever you're hitting in a cage or a player's hitting on a field, and boom, you nailed the sweet spot. You nailed that center of percussion, and it felt like it was effortless. And you didn't feel anything on the bat, and the ball just boom, skyrocketed off. That's what that allows, is to cancel out of all the vibrations. So on this one, Chase's model, in a 33.5, it starts here, the apex is there, and then it comes out down here. So that would be the apex right there.
Beautiful.
You can tell by the sound of the vibration.
And what's going to be the final weight on this KB model?
31.5 on this guy. So it's 34, 31.5.
34 length?
So it's
a little bit longer than... What would you say the average is for a major leaguer?
Most of the major leaguers are going to be 34.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, every once in a while you get some 33.5.
Yeah, 33.5, sure.
D. Gordon, we're doing primarily 33 inches on his CB15s. That's the shortest bat that we do is, that's my knowledge, D. Gordon at 33.
And what is Trey Turner now using?
Trey is 33.5 inches, 30.5 ounces on a customized JM77. There's a Rawlings model originally, and again, we kind of optimized it in terms of the diameter of the barrel. We optimized it in terms of the diameter of the knob to help kind of counterbalance it a little bit so you can get it through the zone faster. Once again, that higher density, harder wood. And that's one of the key things that we stress to players. You know, when we first meet players, and 99% of the time they're going to contact us. You know, we don't go and comb the fields. Hey, buddy, you want to try our bat? They know us by reputation. They contact us and say, hey, you know, would you mind making me my model? They send it to us. We make them specifically what it is they're asking for and what they're most accustomed to. Once we make the first batch for them, we'll come back and say, look, you know, after making this bat for you, we can increase some performance. We can increase some longevity and some durability with it if we do this or we do this. Harper, for example, when I first met him, the model he wanted, we made 100%. And then I came back and I said, you know, after playing around with this bat a little bit and studying the geometry and the effects of everything, I'm highly confident I can increase the quality if we do this and this. And he's like, all right, cool. You know, once you prove yourself to the player and they understand the value that you're bringing to them, chances are they're very open and receptive. Some are, you know, some are just dead set, don't even talk to me about changing it. This is the way I want it, you know, and that's fine, that's fair.
So rumor is on Jock Peterson's bats that they were a larger size than the average bat, right?
That I don't know. I know that with Jock, you mean in terms of length?
Yeah, the ones you made for him.
Yeah, 34.5.
34.
Yeah, he definitely swings a...
Okay, so no truth that he was swinging at 35.5.
Not that I'm aware of, unless he had someone
So
else
only a
that
half, yeah, so a half inch larger than the average player uses.
Yeah, so we're within 15 thousandths of an inch. You know, with final finish sand, just before it gets finished, that's absolutely fine there. And on the barrel, $249.9. We're supposed to be $250, so by the time finish gets on the barrel, we'll be at $250.
Fantastic.
So, with some players, I think that the scaling down of size really kind of hurts them in their swing. And again, I'm not a hitting coach, I'm not a swing expert, but you do pick up on the difference between a guy swinging say a 33 or a 33 and a half and swinging a 34 or 34 and a half. You know, in speaking with players of yesterday, so to speak, so many of those guys who aren't the physical specimens that today's players are. You know, they don't work out or didn't used to work out in the same manner, much less all year round. For some of those players, like a Ripken and a Sagi, for example, you know, that would hit monster, huge bats, 35s and 35 and a halves and 36-inch bats, and hit 35, 33 in 35, 34. They didn't swing it necessarily at the same swing velocity that today's players could, but they were also able to keep it on target and keep it through the zone much more flat for a much longer period of time to increase the odds of making contact. And if you're up there swinging 100% strength and velocity or speed of your swing, you can't have as much control many times as when, say, you pair it back to 85 or 90% velocity of your swing. So to swing a big bat, a big heavy bat, that as you start it, it just kind of takes off on its own, and you can control the head placement of it. It's the bigger the bat, the further the ball is going to go. You got more mass coming into the zone at the moment of inertia when it hits the ball, and it's like bringing a bazooka to a knife fight. You know what I mean? It's bigger is better in that instance.
So a lot of physics.
Yeah, we try to get players to try things, and we're one of the few companies, I think, that will do that through quarter-inch increments also. It's not that you got to go from, say, 33.5 to 34. Even a quarter-inch adds more mass, adds more power to the bat. So to go 33 3/4, master that and go up to a 34, and then maybe 34 1/4 makes a lot of sense. Or guys who are in the twilight of their career, instead of stepping from a 34-inch all the way down to a 33.5, some players like Pudge Rodriguez, we went from 34 down to 33 3/4. Because 33.5 really, I think, messed with his muscle memory. The 34 was just a little too much for where he was at, so we split the difference and we did 33 3/4 and hit a sweet spot with him.
There you go.
Maybe some of it's mental.
That's it.
Maybe some of it's mental.
You remember what Yogi Berra used to say?
Yeah, exactly. It'd be interesting, if you took a player bat and it was 34.5 inches and you lasered 34 inches on it instead, and if they wanted a 31 ounce but it was 33, but you still lasered 31 ounce on it, would they know, or does their vision of what they're seeing take over their physical approach?
Right.
There might be some truth in that as well, in terms of what players believe to be true. But I can say, with professional players, whether it's a minor league player, and certainly a guy with big league time under his belt, they can absolutely and immediately tell the difference. Like we said, we're at .926 on this bat on the top hand right here, and we'll finish at 925 right here for Kris. If that was 930, .930, he would know. Just picking up, he'd be like, it's a little thicker than normal. Same thing with a fraction of an ounce. When I was delivering some bats with the Nationals, the player picked up both bats that I put out in front of him, and this one's just a hair heavier. And sure enough, I knew it was a quarter of an ounce heavier, and he picked it up like that. So they are finely tuned precision hands and sense of feel and muscle memory that the vast majority of these players have. And it makes a lot of sense when you've got that type of dexterity and you've got that type of hand-eye coordination and sensitivity to your craft or to your job and your art. Similar to ourselves as craftsmen. I can tell the difference, when it's on or off, and whether or not it's 2.5 inches in diameter or it's 2.53, or like I said, whether it's 0.93 here versus 0.925 at one.
So a little bit of brag time. Correa, probably the Rookie of the Year in the American League.
Right, yeah.
Kris Bryant, probably the National League Rookie of the Year.
Yeah,
Bryce Harper, the MVP in the National League. And you'll have quite a few Silver Sluggers ahead of you, too.
Yeah. Not a bad year for those guys, Correa is certainly a special player, which everyone knew. Before he was drafted, when he came out of Puerto Rico Baseball High School, and certainly Kris Bryant, going all the way back again to San Diego, and
what he was able to do there and how quickly he's adjusted and be able to have a positive impact on the game for the Cubs and for himself. Then certainly Bryce, I think that when you look at a player like Harper, who so often, and I think it's part of just culture, so much pressure being put on him as a youngster with high expectations, and the fact that the last few years he's had some injuries, which I think probably had a bit of impact on him. But for him to bust out and just go and do his own thing, and I don't know if he necessarily is out to prove to the world how good he is. I think he's simply out to do the best he's possibly capable of doing, and in doing so is definitely putting himself on the map of how special a player he is and how tuned into the game he is. And I think that's great. I think that he's getting the credit and the respect that he's due, because he does have a gift. He does have, much like Bryant and Correa as well, guys who have something just a little extra and a little bit more, and to be able to go ahead and showcase that and highlight how high that potential is that he has. I think it's great for him. It's great for the Nationals and their future. It's great for the game of baseball. I think it's great for the fans to see some of these young guys like Trout as well, come along and really do some amazing things and do it with such maturity and class. When you're looking at that group, that's another key attribute, I think, too.
Absolutely, and Bryce is stepping up with some of the greatest ever in the game with his stat lines this year.
Right. Yeah, his OPS and his slugging percentages,
batting average, and OPS plus. Yep.
So,
given his age, it's incredible. We'll finish up this bat, and if we have another 4 hours, we'll cut another Bryce Harper bat.
Right.
I know you cut 2 already, and you started at 2 a.m. this morning, right?
A little later than that, but yeah, I mean, you got time to get stuff done. It's finite, and it's all about backstopping the player. So you do whatever you possibly can do to give them the best you possibly can on the field, because it all comes down to confidence. People asked me in the beginning 5 years ago, what is it that makes you different? And, well, we make harder bats, we make them last longer, we make them hit the ball further, but at the end of the day, we instill confidence in the player. And a confident hitter is a successful hitter. If you think you're going to go up and fail, you won't.
You're absolutely right.
And if you think you're going to go up and make that pitcher pay when they make a mistake, you will. And you'll succeed.
Yep, those are great lessons for anybody who's going to be watching this video.
Absolutely.
The youngsters to high school players.
Yeah.
It's a great point.
Yep, it's what I stress to my sons all the time. If you think you're going to fail at the plate or any aspect of life, and that's the beautiful thing about baseball. Is it mimics life so much. That you have to be able to be a good teammate. You have to be able to have belief in yourself. You have to set goals and objectives for yourself, and then surround yourself with the proper tools and the proper people to go out and be effective and conquer what it is you're working up against. And again, when you're looking at so many players throughout history, the greats, they did that. And they did it on a consistent, continual basis. So yeah, hats off to all the guys, with Correa, Bryant, Harper, certainly, and the little role that we play in helping them feel confident and feel good about going out and getting their job done to the highest level of their ability. It certainly plays a special place in my heart and mind, and I know everybody here, the fact that we hope give them that ability to go out and do that and feel good about it.
Absolutely, and I think when the Silver Slugger Awards are given out, you're going to dominate the National League, it looks to me.
Maybe.
Well, again, congratulations, and thanks again for your time.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.